Hello YouTube world. This video is going to be a little bit of a follow-up on my video yesterday on the C virus testing and all the lies we're seeing with that, how they're fudging and padding the numbers, cooking the books, how we're seeing all these false positives and just these astronomical numbers in the testing to try and justify all this fear mongering and this push for mandatory masks everywhere and more lockdowns and so on and so forth. So I want to play just a quick clip on this with more of these errors in the testing and more of these lies that they've been caught in with the C virus testing.
We've been documenting the misreporting of COVID deaths, COVID test results, in Florida, in hospitals and labs there. Sadly, this turns out to be a kind of COVID misfire that isn't just confined to the Sunshine State, because not long ago, Virginia was also caught double counting the number of COVID positive residents. Now, in May, the state finally had to fess up. Joe Masenka, a spokesman for Virginia's COVID-19 Joint Information Command, said that repeat positive cases are counted as separate cases only if the tests occur on different days. If a Virginia resident tested Monday and Tuesday and both are positive, that's two positives. What?
Okay, so, this is clear. Both Florida and Virginia have been caught skewing the numbers. I'm sure there's many more. Obviously, probably just about every state's doing it. These are just the last two that have come out recently. And so if the same person is testing positive on different days, those are counted as two separate cases. So if a person were to be tested on 5 different days and test positive 5 separate times, that is counted as 5 separate cases, as if it were 5 separate people testing positive.
My next guest found out something interesting going on with the COVID stats in one county in Ohio, and he joins me now. Phil Kerpen has been on this better than almost anyone out there. He's president of the committee to Unleash Prosperity. Phil, this is ridiculous, counting the same person multiple times if they keep testing positive over a 2-week or month period. But what's going on with what you're looking at in Ohio?
Yeah, this was really interesting. This was actually a Twitter exchange I saw earlier today. Someone said, look, the numbers in Ohio are crazy. I have a parent who they won't let out of the hospital until we get a negative test, and they keep testing and testing and testing, and it's going in the case count every time, and it's been 10 or 15 times. And then another Twitter user named Kyle Lamb, who's been a really good researcher on this stuff, pulled up the Ohio case file and found the exact person she was talking about, who was listed as 15 cases, who was listed as someone of unknown gender in Mahoning County, age 80 plus, symptom onset May 25th, 15 cases, and it was added up into the state count as 15 cases.
Now,
so there you go. There was one instance of one person being counted as 15 separate cases. Let's hear that just one more time.
Exact person she was talking about, who was listed as 15 cases, who was listed as someone of unknown gender in Mahoning County, age 80 plus, symptom onset May 25th, 15 cases, and it was added up into the state count as 15 cases.
So you talk about skewing and padding the numbers. One person counted as 15 cases. So you can see how there would be just a drastic and astronomical and exponential rise in the positive tests and case numbers, combined with just the absurd, fanatical, persistent testing that is being done in this country. It's just insanity.
Now, a friend of mine's mom was 92 who keeps testing positive. She has no symptoms. She told me the same thing, that every time she tests, it's counted as a separate case, but you've actually now documented it. All right, El Paso County in Texas is seeing an explosion of new cases, Phil, and this might be one reason why.
It seems there's still maybe some confusion on the number of people that are tested. There are individuals that are tested multiple times, especially if they get a positive test, from what I understand. You're not counting somebody twice, are you?
We do if they are tested more than once, but that number is very, very small.
So they're not even hiding this, the fact they're doing it. And these were the El Paso County commissioners just straight up admitting if a person tests positive on separate days, they count that as more than one case, as multiple cases. But he assured us, he says that the number is very, very small of the instances of when that occurs. And obviously, this has just got to be occurring all over the place all the time, where one person, they're being given multiple tests and they're counting that as multiple different cases, positive cases for the virus.
Do you believe that number is very small, Phil? And what kind? I mean, they just say this like it's no big deal.
Well, I think that that number might have been small a couple of months ago when we had a severe testing shortage. We now have a severe testing surplus. There are tests everywhere. We have this huge discontinuity in the data around June 10th, where you can just see the number of positives and the number of tests take off everywhere in the country. And, states were told to do this. The panic purveyor said you have to test everyone. Mass testing is the greatest. Then we start seeing these huge numbers of tests, including huge numbers of positives. Then it's, oh my God, panic, shut everything down again based on those numbers. But a lot of the tests are repeat tests. A lot of the tests are, as you alluded to in the open, like Florida, lots of other states are reporting positives only and not negatives. A lot of employment-based testings, they come in, test everyone.
And we covered that yesterday, how Florida, they were caught reporting only positives, no negatives.
Positives have to be reported to the state, the negatives, no one pops negative, they don't report it. So the data is a big mess, and it's really unfortunate because we have had a real rise in some places, much more modest than the big peak we saw a couple months ago, but it's very hard to differentiate that and understand how serious it actually is when you have this sea of bad data that we now have as a result of this hyper-testing.
Yeah, and in 15 seconds, the hospitals now are required to directly report their data to HHS, not to CDC. How significant on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well, we'll have to see how.
And you may have seen that in the news where Trump made a change where, like she just mentioned, the hospitals now are supposed to report their numbers, apparently, not to the CDC, but to the HHS to try to clean up and improve the accuracy of these testing and case numbers. We shall see on that.
Well, HHS does, but I give it about at least a 7 or 8 because CDC's been atrocious. They've been so bad that most people are using a website from the Atlantic magazine to track national statistics instead of using the CDC website, which is pretty telling. And so I don't think they could be worse. Let me put it that way, Laura.
All right, Phil. Great seeing you. And George.
And the CDC is just an absolute joke. We know that the CDC should have zero credibility on anything ever going forward. And something I wanted to point out, with this testing is I brought this up in a video. It's probably been back in May, maybe late April. We're seeing this just fanatical obsession in this country with testing. We need more testing. We need more testing. We need more testing, more testing, more testing, more testing. And, and so many people are fearful and they're just lining up to get tested. So the United States, we do more testing. I wouldn't even want to guess. I think Germany is the second closest to us in testing, and we've done, I wouldn't even want to guess. It's got to be at least 10 times. We've probably tested at least 10 times the number that they have in Germany. Don't quote me on that, but the point being, in the U.S., we've tested so vastly more than any other country. And I want you to take a look at this graphic here. This came from the Rockefeller Foundation, and this was the Rockefeller Foundation's C virus plan, and Ezekiel Manuel was the one. He works with the Rockefeller Foundation. He's a famous eugenicist. And so they were pushing for 30 million tests per week and up to 300,000 people for the contact tracing armies. And I'm going to talk about the contact tracing armies in a minute because that works into this. So the Rockefeller Foundation was pushing for 30 million tests per week. I don't know what we're doing now in terms of testing numbers, but it's just massive and fanatical, the amount of testing that's going on. I want you to keep that in mind, that it is there. These are groups like the Rockefeller Foundation that are in charge and pushing for all of this testing, and why we're seeing this fanatical obsession with testing everyone. And now I want to play a clip. In Texas now, they're saying that you should consider wearing a mask even when you're in your home. And I want to play a clip of this man who I guess he's the chief of the Texas Division of Emergency Management. I suppose that's like FEMA.
Welcome, Chief Nim Kidd. He's with the Texas Division of Emergency Management. Chief, thank you for taking time to speak with us. I know you're extremely busy, especially what's going on. I mean, you turn on any of the national news, and Texas is right at the center of all of the bad news. Where do we stand right now in terms of this pandemic?
So, Ryan, thanks for having us today, and really we appreciate all that you're doing to help us get this message out. I mean, it is no secret that Texas has seen an increase in the number of positive cases and the number of hospitalizations and the number of people going into an ICU. I think the other message that we need to get out is we still need people to follow the rules and the suggestions of all of the healthcare providers and physicians that are out there. We still need people to wear the mask in public. We still need people to keep social distance and isolation. But Ryan, the one thing I want to try to get across today is we need to do that when we're in our homes also. As you know, I'm a lifelong San Antonian, grew up there, worked there for many years, and I know how many multi-generational families that we have. And while we believe the community is doing a great job of following the rules when they're outside of the home, we really need to be thinking about doing the same thing when we're inside the home.
So now they're not just going to push this outside the home, they're coming into your home now with this.
And all of us are capable of catching this disease. None of us are immune from this. And the fact that we need to get across is, in order to protect ourselves, we need to protect our families and our loved ones. We really need to be thinking about the care that we're providing inside the home right now to make sure that we're not spreading this disease inside the home and then making it come outside the house.
So let me get this straight. What you're effectively saying is that people should be wearing masks inside their own homes now?
Ryan, I'm saying if you can't socially distance and can't socially isolate, or if you've been out in public and exposing yourself and you haven't decontaminated yourself good enough when you get home, if you have someone that has underlying medical conditions at home, we really need to be thinking about that. Now, if you're the same 2 or 3 people that are living in the same house and you're really taking care of yourself and you're following all the rules, then you probably don't need to wear a mask in your home. But if you've gone out for Memorial Day or 4th of July, or you've gone out to parties, or you've gone out to graduation parties, when you've gone out and you've come back in, you can be bringing that back inside. And I think it's no secret, we all like to relax when we're at home. But if we're not paying attention to how the virus spreads outside or inside the home, we're going to keep spreading this virus. And so while I'm not necessarily saying you must wear a mask at all times when you're in the house, I want you to think about where you've been. Have you done the things to protect yourself and your family when you're at home? And when you have extended family coming to stay with you, are you doing all the things that you can to protect yourself and them from this virus?
Here in Bexar County, we know the hospital capacity has been hovering anywhere between 10 and 50.
And notice he tried to soften the blow a little bit there to make it seem more reasonable, of not demanding that you wear the mask inside the house, but just kind of suggesting it, if you've been around other people or haven't been good about social distancing. So, it's the boiling frog, just turning up the water a little more slowly, just trying to get you to dip your toes into the water before they throw you in. And so that's what he said. Just reading this, the Texas Division of Emergency Management is advising residents to consider wearing a mask at all times, even in your home. Chief Nim Kidd said as much, adding the community has paid attention and done well outside their homes, but it's not enough. We still need people to wear the mask out in public. We still need people to keep social distance and isolation. The one thing I want to try to get across today is we need to do that when we're in our homes also. While we believe the community is doing a great job of following the rules when they're outside the home, we really need to be thinking about doing the same when we're inside the home. Okay. Where this really lines up to me now is with several things. I want to bring you back to the H.R. Bill 6666. Just like Revelation chapter 13, this was introduced by Democrat Bobby Rush of Illinois, and I've been keeping an eye on this. It was introduced to the House on May 1st, and it has not passed the House. Nothing else has happened with that. I've been praying against this bill, and I encourage you, please pray against this bill that God stops it, or at the very least that God informs people, because we've not heard a word in the mainstream media about this bill. Now, concerning this business of coming into the home and now encouraging you that it's not enough, you need to wear a mask in the home, I want to bring you back to some information I covered. It's been a little while, I guess back in May, when they were speaking a little more boldly about coming into your home, removing you, and forcibly quarantining you. And they've kind of backed off of that, and you haven't heard anything in a while. So let me go back to that.
California health director from Ventura County appeared to suggest that beating the virus might require removing people from their homes. Trace Gallagher has more on this. Hey, Trace.
Hey, Tucker, arresting hair salon owners who open their business in paddleboarders looking for exercise has certainly given lockdown authorities a black eye. But when the director of the Ventura County Health Department, Dr. Robert Levin, said children who test positive for coronavirus could be forcibly removed from their homes, it struck a national nerve. Now Dr. Levin says he might have been misinterpreted or gave the wrong impression, except there was no misinterpretation. When the health director was talking about hiring new contact trace investigators, as you say, the people who investigate the transmission of COVID-19, he said they would, quoting here, find people who have COVID-19 and immediately isolate them. Find every one of their contacts, make sure they stay quarantined, and check in with them every day. And then he added this. Watch.
Every person who we're isolating, for instance, needs to have their own bathroom. And so we'll be moving people like this into other kinds of housing that we have available.
That's where the kids were pulled out. But when the tweets hit the fan, Dr. Levin walked it back, way back. Watch.
I gave people the impression that if you were isolated, you would be taken out of your home and put into a hotel room or a motel room or sequestered in some other way. And if I did do that, I'm very sorry.
And yet California is actively promoting what it hopes will become an army of 20,000 disease detectives to find everyone who is unknowingly infected, with a goal of tracking, tracing, and isolating those who test positive. Or as the Contra Costa County Public Health Director said, quoting, ultimately it's a customer service. Tucker.
Talk about Orwellian. It's customer service. Trace, great to
Okay, and so that was the Director of Health in Ventura County, I believe in California, and he was talking about forcibly removing people from their homes against their will into quarantine. And enough people caught wind of that, and so and really pushed back on that. So they kind of backed off, and then there was this statement, this was way back in April, from one of these WHO officials about the same thing, about, to contain the spread of the virus, needing to enter your home and remove you and remove yourself or family members and quarantine you.
Dr. Michael Ryan, he's a leader at the World Health Organization, announced that in response to the spread of this virus, authorities may have to enter people's homes and remove family members, presumably by force.
In most parts of the world, due to lockdown, most of the transmission that's actually happening in many countries now is happening in the household, at family level. In some senses, transmission has been taken off the streets and pushed back into family units. Now we need to go and look in families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them in a safe and dignified manner.
Just so you know, we're coming to your house, seizing your children, and, quote, isolating them in a safe and dignified manner.
Okay, and So it seems like they're kind of getting back to this slowly of coming inside the home, of all of this oppression and these rules and this draconian dystopian nightmare. It's not enough outside. Now they're pushing to come inside your home and enforce this inside your home. So keep in mind, like with this HR Bill 6666 and these contract tracing armies that Andrew Cuomo and Bloomberg up in New York and others have been pushing. This very well could be part of this, where these contact tracers show up at your door and then they say, well, we're going to need to come inside and make sure everyone's wearing the mask and so on and so forth. And keep this in mind, all of us, we already have cameras on our laptop computers. We already have cameras on our cell phones. And, a lot of people out there say that we actually have cameras inside of these new television sets that the government can view us from. And I think that probably is the case. So the government, is already watching us. Very likely. So it's not hard to see this going, of them pushing this further and further, where the government could try to start enforcing this of wearing the mask inside your home. And, we're just getting hit with this from every direction. And you can see this building to them them starting to push this, not just outside, but in your home. I did a video, I guess around the 4th of July. You'll notice this on your phone, how without our consent, against our will, we now have this C virus tracking system app, whatever you want to call it, on the phone, which is just one more thing about this. In the book 1984, if you're familiar with it, the government literally installed cameras in people's homes. And we have, as everybody knows, we've got cameras on street corners, cameras everywhere outside. And the next step, which I think they'll eventually push for, will be the government mandating to install cameras inside the home, just like they did in the book 1984. And those cameras are inside the home. And if you were not complying with everything, in your home, the camera, you would literally have a government official speaking to you and warning you, and they could arrest you. So we're living in an Orwellian novel, a dystopian nightmare, right out of the book of Revelation. And something else I wanted to point out is, Fox News. So
Liberty or
the story I just showed with Laura Ingraham, that was a good bit of news there. Same with the story yesterday out of Florida, how they're skewing these numbers and lying about the testing numbers. And Fox News, you see a lot of lies, and you also see the truth. And you may be asking yourself, why would Fox News put that much truth out there of exposing the lies and the skewing of the numbers? And I was thinking about this, and I really think what they're doing is they're trying to lure people in. With Fox News, they're trying to lure people in and gain people's trust so that they can set up and sell a much bigger lie down the road. And we know CNN, MSNBC, you get basically no truth on those networks. And a lot of people just completely avoid that. And a lot of people I know that are conservative, that can see some of this, but they're asleep on a lot of it and still very deceived, and they don't have the Holy Spirit of the Lord with them. They watch a lot of Fox News because they get some truth there, and that lures them in. And I would say this is kind of like feeding people some sugar to help the poison go down. It's like you've got a glass of poison and you put a bunch of sugar in there, and they taste that sweet sugar, and they don't notice they're ingesting poison. So I believe that the reason Fox News is putting out some of these good news stories and these truthful news stories is to gain people's trust and to set them up so that they will accept a much bigger lie down the road, that Fox News is gaining your trust and giving you some truth now to set up some much bigger lies down the road. And I've seen recently they're starting to talk about George Soros. So they're putting some truth out there, I think, to set you up for much bigger lies that they will use to deceive you down the road. I want to show you a quick example.
That could be an alternative title, okay? So when you come on
I think you and I disagree on the mask thing. You want to have a debate on the mask thing one night? You can come on, we'll debate it.
Well, actually, I have a big update on the masks tomorrow night. If people want to wear masks, I have no problem with that. I just hope all those Chinese-made chemical particulates don't end up in our lungs when we have to breathe them and they get wet. So I'm
talking about masks, I'm talking about good masks. I don't know what you're talking about. But I'll tell you, I just anecdotally, I saw it in New York, thank God, at the grocery store. The guys packing the shelves, the cashiers wore it. Nobody in the store got it.
Well,
so it's temporary.
Here's my deal. I'm going to get into this tonight. If you want...
And, of course, Hannity is always pushing the mask. He is pro-mask, pushing that you need to wear the mask everywhere. And he said it about 1 billion times. He pushes how everyone in his local grocery store wore the mask and none of them got the virus and the masks are working. And he just beats this drum nonstop.
To mandate that people wear masks.
And of course, Hannity just said there, well, it's temporary. It's not forever. This is just temporary. Yeah, right. Yeah, we know this is not coming to an end. This is going to go on indefinitely.
Okay, bring Congress back or bring the state legislature back and pass a law. So and then the law has to withstand legal challenge. Well, yeah, okay, the state legislature. It's not. We can't have these governors just willy-nilly issuing edicts that last forever. And don't be so sure that the masks don't last forever. By the way, why do you think the masks?
I would advise getting a good mask. I have no idea what the hell Laura's talking about with particle, but whatever. It's in the mask.
All right. Well, guess what? Tomorrow I'm going to educate you on the current state of the science.
Great. I say that all the time.
So Laura Ingraham made a good point there that first off that they need to make laws. They can't just have these governors ruling like kings and queens and making these mandates, and that there are no laws to do this and they've made no laws, so this is unconstitutional, illegal. And she also makes a good point that this is going to go on indefinitely. Of course, you can't trust Laura Ingraham either. I've caught her and seen her in, numerous lies. So she just doesn't lie as much as Hannity and some of these other ones. But, she'll put some truth out there, but you got to be careful because she has those lies cleverly hidden. Now, Hannity, he's probably one of the strongest examples on Fox News of just an obvious shill and controlled opposition. It ought to be overwhelmingly obvious with him. It's a little harder to see with like Tucker Carlson or Laura Ingraham, but Hannity, very blatant controlled opposition, a shill. He made $36 million last year. He's always plugging his book. And just blatantly obvious, he's always plugging the mask and plugging the vaccine. He's very pro-mask, very pro-vaccine. And I want to show you one more example of that.
Here, tens of millions, their words. I know.
And Dr. Oz, we know that he's deep state.
Oh, they're going to have 500 million doses by next year. And they might start by the beginning of 2021. But I've on my show had all the major vaccine experts. Peter Hotez was on this week, and he said it's actually going to be a little later in his opinion. Remember, the mRNA vaccine, which is what? Yes.
If the 30,000 have the same results as the 45, would you take it? Real quick, I have 5 seconds.
I would take it, yes.
So would I. Thank you, Doctor.
So Dr. Oz says he'll take the vaccine. Sean Hannity says that he'll take the vaccine. And even take a look at the body language of Hannity when he sells this.
I would take it, yes.
Real quick, I have 5 seconds.
I would take it, yes.
So would I.
Hannity just comfortably says, so would I, really selling you on that vaccine. I, Sean Hannity, have total confidence in the vaccine. I'd take it. So very clear what Hannity's doing here. He's pushing the mask, wearing the mask everywhere, pushing the vaccine. I mean, just blatantly obvious that he is controlled opposition. So to wrap things up, John 8:12, Jesus Christ said, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. And we got to follow Jesus Christ and he's teaching in wisdom. We walk in light that way. Otherwise, we're walking in darkness and we believe the lies and deception, because this entire world is darkness and it's getting darker every single day. First Epistle of John 5:19, and we know that we are of God, and the whole world lieth in wickedness. This whole world lies in evil, wickedness, and darkness. It's getting darker and more wicked every day, and the lies are getting worse and worse and more prevalent every single day. And finally, with all this going on, now we see here that Fauci is going to be on the cover of InStyle magazine in September. What a cool guy, huh? Fauci now posing as a fashion guru on all these magazines. Just total insanity out there. But I just really encourage you to seek God, to pray, to read the Bible. And, if these videos are helpful to you and you get some useful information, I just really encourage you, please share these videos with your friends and your family. My viewer numbers are way down, and I don't do this to try to get views. I make no money off YouTube. I'm not affiliated or partnering with YouTube, but there's obviously something going on with the algorithms and other things where people that are speaking the truth, trying to expose the mainstream lies, that are speaking from a Christian perspective, our videos are being buried so people can't view them. I was having 70,000, 30,000, 50,000 views in a lot of videos. One of the Kobe Bryant videos had like 280,000 views, and now I'm only getting a couple hundred views on every video. And I know I'm not the most interesting person or entertaining person to listen to, but I'm noticing this with so many others too, which is how I know it's true. So many other people on YouTube that have great channels and speak of similar information to me, their viewer numbers and subscribers are way down. So something is very clearly going on where, YouTube is censoring and burying all of us that are really trying to expose the lies. So please just spread these videos and send them to your friends and family, anyone you think they may help. God bless everybody, and I'll talk to you again real soon.